Hi everyone, my name is Charlie and today I'm being upstaged by this rather large faux fur rug. It is Monday and it is the beginning of another reading vlog. I have just arrived at work to discover that somebody has left quite a lot of homeware in the car park. Now these are rather large canvases that we haven't been accepting at the charity shop because we haven't got the room for them. It's something that I think a lot of charity shops face, is that everybody chooses to redecorate their homes and these giant canvases no longer fit with what they're going with, and so they just bring them all to the shop, which is fine, but people don't necessarily always want to buy them, and thus I am stuck with a load of canvases that I don't know what I'm going to do with, and glassware that's chipped and cracked. I know why they've done it. They've done it because we weren't able to accept donations on Saturday because we got so full, and we're working with fewer people because our manager's away. One of those things that it constantly causes things to back up. Reading wise, started reading The Sisters Brothers by DeWitt yesterday. Only made it through 50 pages, and that's simply because of that issue I was talking about with The Sleeping Beauty by Elizabeth Taylor from last week, which, as we know, I want to have read all of Elizabeth Taylor's books by the end of next month, and I've got 2 left. But for whatever reason, The Sleeping Beauty I just find a little bit drowse inducing. Every time I've picked it up to read, I've managed 1 or 2 pages and been annoyed by how slow the pace is, and that's really strange because that's something that I've enjoyed about all of the Elizabeth Taylors that I've read in the past. I'm just wondering whether it's the time of year, whether it's the mood that I'm in. I'm looking for a different kind of book at the moment, and maybe I should have tried to get all of the Elizabeth Taylors done before these last 2 months of the year. Not last 2 months of the year, my goodness, it's only July. It's only June, it's July, oh my goodness, I don't even know what day of the month it is. Last week, for whatever reason, I thought that we were going to have 31 days in June for the first time in my life. And another thing that we're going through today, and just the moment life-wise, is just not liking how our body looks. We put on a bit of weight last year when we were struggling with all the arthritic stuff, and I've not been able to get rid of it yet, but I'm seeing it more today, and it's really frustrating me. That could also be the haircut. The haircut's making my face look a different shape. I don't know. The face was probably this shape anyway, and I'm just getting annoyed by it. But today, that's where we are. Either way, in terms of The Sisters Brothers, it's one of those that I'm reading. I'm like, am I going to continue reading this? Am I going to DNF it? It's propulsive. It's fast-paced. It has short chapters, but I've yet to understand why it's made it into my volunteer's top 5 books that she's ever read. For me, I get a little bit reminded of Elmore Leonard. There's the touch of the Cormac McCarthy there in how sparse the prose is, and yet on the converse of that, there is more humour than I suppose you'd see in McCarthy. It's one of those, I'll keep going, but I would not be surprised if I just toss this book aside, although I have to be wary of that at the moment because that's something else I'm having to say to myself. Is it just because I want to have got through all of the books that are on my shelves, so I'm being more stringent? I am more comfortable throwing stuff away and saying, well, it's not for now, I don't care, get it to the charity shop, just so that I can have an empty TBR, clear shelves with nothing unread on them. I don't know. I do want to get those alternative women's prize books read, and I keep talking about that. Maybe things will take a change this week and I'll just have a load of half-read books on my shelves as I try to get those ones read. But for now, coffee. It's Wednesday and I went to shower about 2 hours ago. 45 minutes later, I had yet to get in the shower because just like last week with my bath, I ended up on my hands and knees on the landing, scrubbing the floor with a brush and pink stuff to clean it. One part of the floor is fantastic. I texted Charlie after I'd done that and said about what had happened. The other part's not gone so well. I think the grime was a bit thicker there. Honestly, I'm disgusted with this family because I've always thought that we had dark wood floors on the landing, and I'm discovering it's not dark wood, it's just dirt. Now, honestly, this was the colour that they were when we took up the carpet, but still, I'm shocked and appalled and still need to do more with the scrubbing brush. But I got blisters on my hand, and I know that I can't do too much like that because I did some last night as well, which is why there's also a much cleaner part of the floor. And for whatever reason, I think it's the arthritis and the hypermobile joints and that sort of thing causes me to have vibrating arms, and then I just can't get anything done with them. Like this morning I was trying to write, and I usually have very neat handwriting, which is good for when you're, writing a book by longhand. And it was not happening today. I didn't read The Sisters Brothers yesterday because I decided that I was going to pick up The Sleeping Beauty by Elizabeth Taylor, and so we're 120 pages into that with 100 pages left and looking forward to finishing it this afternoon. I think this happens with books sometimes. You know that you want to read them, but perhaps you're just not in the mood for them at that time. So the last 2 weeks I was in the mood for fantasy adventure, and now I'm feeling like I'm in the mood for this classic tale. It's very stereotypical Elizabeth Taylor. There is love mentioned, but it's love that's being found in not the best of ways. It's another affair, basically. I don't know what was going on in Elizabeth Taylor's life, but the number of affairs that her characters have, I just think it's unreasonable. In particular, in this one, it's a case of a man called Vinny has fallen in love with... He's got a domineering mother. I feel like there's a lot of domineering mothers in Elizabeth Taylor. Indeed, the more that I read from this writer, the more I'm recognising that she did seem to write the same tale over and over again. And I don't know whether she was trying to find something throughout all of this writing. I don't know whether she was trying to understand something in her own life. I don't know whether this would be a favourite of mine. What I really adore about Elizabeth Taylor's writing is her descriptions, and she will always have a character or something going on with a character, and I think, my goodness, you captured them perfectly. But then there'll be these moments where it's a bit almost like being stuck in a dreamlike haze because she's going over old ground again, and it's like, okay, we've done this already, Liz. Can we scarper, please? Can we move on to the crux of this story? As I say, I'm hoping to finish that this afternoon because it is incredibly hot today. Yesterday it was okay, and I was able to take Sally out for a walk because it was so cloudy, so it actually meant that there was a bit more of a breeze and it wasn't so stifling. Whereas I really wouldn't like to take Sally out in this. Indeed, she's actually currently hiding somewhere in the house, my bedroom, but still she's hiding. She won't come out of there. So I'm thinking that she's decided it's too hot for her today. So it's looking like a day spent at home, reading, writing and watching Doctor Who. That's another strange thing, for me anyway. I stopped watching Doctor Who during the Stephen Moffat years. It was because of the way that the show went, in that they had all these weird breaks, so you'd be watching it for 6 weeks and then it'd go off the air for 6 months, and I just couldn't cope with that. He talked about doing it like an American model and there being a break between the series, but that just didn't work for me. I needed that continuity. Maybe some time away from the show has been okay, because I'm watching it and I'm thinking, actually, Matt Smith didn't do a bad job. I'm enjoying what he did, and I think it's being able to just watch it like one episode a day. I'm shocked to discover that these episodes were 12 years ago, but then I'm like, well, of course they were. Of course they were, because one of the whole reasons that I couldn't watch is because when these episodes were airing, there was some reason at the time that I couldn't watch the episodes as they were airing. I don't know whether it's because I was finishing off things at uni. I don't know whether it was work stuff or that sort of thing. I know that when this series was airing, I was just beginning work for the first time in Congleton, so there's every chance that I just didn't get to watch these. I don't know what it is, but now I'm just getting to watch them in my own pace. Yeah, I'm enjoying them. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. I'm about to finish Matt Smith's final episodes, and then I get to watch Peter Capaldi from the start, and I've only ever watched one series of his. I'm hoping I'm in for a treat. But for now, I am going to go. I've been drinking a lot of iced coffee this week because the heat, and also I found some sugar-free syrup in the kitchen that I didn't know was there, so I've just been going mad on that. Still not feeling too happy about how my face looks, but I'll get over that soon. Probably. Hopefully. Maybe. Possibly. Probably not. I'm a terrible person when it comes to seeing myself in a mirror. Alright, ta-ra. It's Friday. I have just arrived to work to discover that somebody else has sorted the books, which is fine. However, there's only one other person who sorts the books, and generally when they do it, which is why we ask them not to, they throw away everything that's worth something. Do I spend this morning going through everything they've done, thus giving myself work that's actually technically already been done? I don't know. I'm not sure whether I'm that hypercritical, or I mean, I care about the possible loss of books, but I'm already going to be in charge of the shop for the day. Either way, yesterday I had the writers group, and it was all to do with then and now, talking about the differences between older people and younger people. Weirdly, could think of a load of physical characteristics for older people, but couldn't think of much of what differentiated between, in terms of physical characteristics, in terms of youth. Is this because I've probably spent more time with the over 50s since childhood? Perhaps. Young people have never been nice to me. Quite honestly, this could go back to when my mother said, 1, I was never a child, and 2, I didn't like children even when I was one. So, with that going on, and reading the Sisters Brothers, I actually wrote something. I wrote something during the session that I'm pretty sure was the voice of a character from a book that I started. I've written it once as a first draft and then pulled some elements away for another story that I intend to write in future, entitled A Prior Commitment, and this seemed to be in her voice. It's always nice when characters return and tell you that they're all right to wait for you to tell their story, because I'm currently working on Alice Valentine. As I say, my hope is still to finish all of the edits and everything on Sunday to get it out there with beta readers throughout July, and then that sort of thing. I really would like to get it out in November, which is when I wanted to bring the first book out, actually. If anyone remembers, I planned on bringing it out in November 2019 and left it until February 2020. So I'd like to get this one out in November, and once I finish writing this, I am planning on going directly into writing the third book. I designed a cover for it the other day and sent that to Charlie as a draft, and she agreed that it looked okay. So I think I have a cover and I know what the story's about. I just have to define whether I want to have all of these different pieces telling the story, or whether I just want it to be this one singular voice and then have another character question people about that. I have also changed the final scene of Mistakes Mean Murder, which, side note, were going into huge problems with Goodreads because they won't allow me to change the cover to Mistakes Mean Murder. So they told me to create a new edition of it and put the cover on there, but then it wouldn't allow me to upload the cover image to that. So now there's 2 pages for Mistakes Mean Murder and absolutely the incorrect cover on there. So that's always fun. This is what happens when I announce things too early, but I honestly thought it was going to be Mistakes Make Murder for ages, and then it was only as I was driving last year that it came to me it should be Mistakes Mean Murder. And I've changed the final scene. Basically, there's something that happens at the end of this book, and I realised that the way I'd written it, it didn't have this sense of finality and like one story done to propel us into the 3rd book. And I was sat at my computer the other day and I figured out what the final scene ought to be, and actually how that would make things easier when it comes to writing something within the 3rd book. That's my next aim, is to write that scene. There's a great scene that I'm calling it a great scene. I've enjoyed myself writing it. It's a scene of Marmaduke on a bicycle and chatting with another one of my characters. I don't need to write the next scene with Marmaduke because it's one I already wrote and then cut because I thought it was unnecessary, and now I've decided it's necessary. And then it's just about expanding some of the scenes I've already written for him, including some description and changing a few pieces of dialogue that maybe reveal too much, but which I needed to know as the writer. Yeah, it's just going back through, spelling mistakes, and it'll be done. On my end anyway. Then it's, like I say, beta readers. I think I'm definitely going to do that thing where I put out a call for them. Hopefully all will be done. Now reading The Sisters Brothers by Patrick DeWitt, and this is going to be the book that sees us through to the end of June, which means we will have read 4 books in June. Didn't we do well? As with all Saturdays, I'm just here to round things off for the week. Did a bit more reading of The Sisters Brothers last night, and I am hopeful that I'm going to finish it tomorrow. I can understand a bit where my volunteer's coming from, saying that this has made it into their top 5 books of all time, but it's not got there for me. There is something within the sibling relationship that I think's done well. There are touches of other writers that I've read who've written in this genre, and I can appreciate that. It's not hit those heights for me that it did for the volunteer, but I don't think that that's a bad thing. You know, it means a 2-book week. I'm hoping that maybe in July that we can strengthen this and we can read a bit more. I have been saying that for the last few weeks now. In fact, throughout the entirety of June, I've been talking about trying to read more. Indeed, it's quite funny that I read less in June than I did in May, but I read more. But it was just that I read a very chunky book indeed. I suppose that also I did find 4 books that I really enjoyed. Indeed, I'm planning on filming my June favourites this coming week, and I wondered about including all 4 of the books on there because I did knock The Passenger off last month because I hadn't read enough that I liked. In terms of Alice Valentine, I'm hopeful, again, that I can finish everything tomorrow. It might be a bit of a rush though, so I might have to go over into Tuesday, but it's definitely very close to being finished. It's like, I had such worries that there was no humour in this, and I'll be reading parts of it back to myself. I thought, you were still getting the one-liners in there. Maybe they weren't present all the time, but they're there. Yeah, I'm looking forward to other people reading this and giving me feedback, but I'm also terrified because it seems to be the thing with the Alice Valentine books. I'm always the more wary about them, the more anxious about how they're going to be received, and I don't know whether that's because I'm writing crime, and so it's very heavily plot focused, whereas the Doris books, whilst each individual story had a plot, it was more about Doris and Harold really, and how they went about things and the language and how they poke fun at stuff until the final book where it was quite plot driven. And then it'll be a case of trying to read more as we head on forth through the year, and also trying to get the 3rd Alice Valentine book written. Are we going to end up finishing it by the end of the year? I don't think so. I'm a bit slower than I used to be, but I would like to finish the poetry collection this year, the 2nd one, and make good headway on the next Alice Valentine, because I think it'd be nice to say that I released 8 books in 10 years by the time I do my Decade of Doris next year. Will it be 8? This is another problem I have being as old as I am. I forget how many books I've got out. I think I've got 6 books out, and there's going to be 2 more next year. Hopefully a poetry collection, and oh no, there'll be 9 books then, won't there? If I got the oh, I'm not very good with mathematics. Anyway, I got the news our new computerised tills are going in on Monday, so the shop is closed for 2 days next week. So today I'm going to be the last person to use this till. I'm the last person to do the till rec at this shop for this company, because the merger happens on Monday, and then it's a whole different company, whole new set of systems, new till rec, everything new to learn. It's, you know, the pay doesn't change, the job doesn't change, but the till changes and things we've got to do in there change, and it gets a little bit more complicated. But, you know, don't we like to challenge ourselves? Shouldn't we challenge ourselves as we get older? I don't know. Maybe this is the thing. Maybe we go through like a chrysalis, a metamorphosis every 16 years, because in 2 weeks I've been with this charity for 16 years as a volunteer from 2008 to 2017, employed from 2013. I've grown so old here, so old. And one day the book that I'm writing about the charity shop will come out, one day. But for now, the kettle's boiled. I've got Italian to practice, and a few volunteers have dropped out for today, so I've got to try and get some work done in the morning, because I ain't gonna get it done in the afternoon. So if you want to talk about anything if you want to talk about anything that I've talked about in this video, then please feel free to do so in the comments. I hope that you have enjoyed this video, because until next time, that is all.